All right, moving on to the co-main event, which is the featherweight title, and Alexander Volkanovski is going to be challenging Max Holloway, and Volkanovski coming off that win over Jose Aldo, and I've been kind of going back and forth with myself about this, and I don't know what the answer is really, but a lot of people say that Jose Aldo in that fight just didn't show up, right? And I was kind of wondering that too, but then I watched it back today, and you got to wonder if I mean, one thing, Alexander Volkanovski is a very good, like, he stays defensive while he's applying pressure on you, right? So a lot of the things that you're throwing don't land. There aren't a lot of openings there. And I'm wondering if what happened, it's not like Jose Aldo wasn't trying to throw punches. I wonder if Jose was looking at things and things that he's usually able to open up on guys, he just wasn't able to on Volkanovski because Volkanovski is so good defensively, right? And Volkanovski was also a little bit stronger in the clinch, able to push him up against the cage and control things there, right? But yeah, I don't know if Jose was feeling unmotivated or whatever, but I didn't think that was, to me, now when I watched it back, I kind of went like, Jose just seems a little bit confused. Like, he doesn't really know what to throw because, I mean, Volkanovski's got some pretty crisp fucking fundamentals, and he's kind of just like I said, he plays a defensive game a little bit, in a strike. Like, he stays very fundamentally sound, and I don't think Jose was able to find the openings. Anyway, moving on. Before that, Volkanovski knocked out Chad Mendes in a fight where this was a fight, another thing that I had to reconsider. Okay, Chad Mendes got knocked out in this fight, right? But up until the point that he got knocked out, Mendes was actually looking pretty good. He was able to secure a takedown in the first round. He hurt Alexander in the second. And then, after this fight, he announces that he's retiring. And I kind of go, wait, what the fuck? Why is Chad Mendes? He just had, granted he lost, but then you kind of start to see, Mendes was putting big bursts of effort into things, and when he didn't get the finish, it was kind of draining him. And that made me kind of think about, okay, Chad Mendes is one of the best fighters in the world. There's nothing, you know what I mean? He's one of the best 145-pounders there is. So he can always show up to fight, right? But I wonder if he was reflecting on things because his cardio seemed to go a little bit. And like I said, there were a lot of big movements in that fight, things where he was trying to hunt for the finish, and it's exhausting. But you got to wonder what his motivation was leading up to camp and whether he felt like that played some type of part. I mean, I'm completely taking a guess here, right? But when your conditioning suffers, it's usually a testament to you not getting enough cardio in camp, right? You not being prepared. And I wonder if his motivation, he's obsessed with the outdoors and shit now. Good for him. He seems to be doing what he wants to do. But, I kind of was wondering that today. I was like, I wonder how much of what he's actually, if what he was actually going through when he decided to retire was just what his motivation felt like leading up to the fight and how much he wanted to pursue things like hunting and fishing and all that stuff that he does now. Anyway, we're getting way off topic. Alexander Volkanovski has been looking very good, but he's fighting Max Holloway, who is Holloway most recently bumped up to 155 and lost in an interim title fight to Dustin Poirier. But again, looked very good. It just looked like Dustin had a little bit more pop on his punches, but Dustin Poirier is one of the best boxers in the world, man. In the realm of MMA, he's got really good boxing, and he's a BJJ black belt to boot, So that was a tough fight for Max, just because, again, when you're moving, I don't mean to keep touching on this, but Jose Aldo dropping the bantamweight, right? Even when you go up in weight, when your body's not used to fighting there, it's just going to hold up a little bit differently than you expect it to. And you don't really know until you know. But, seriously, so when you get Max jumping to 155, Dustin's been able, he was at 145 and jumped to 155, but he had a lot of fights at 155 before he fought Max. He's got some muscle densities added on, a little bit of power. He knows his body is just more accustomed to fighting there. No getting around it. So, it's a tough fight for Max, but now Max is dropping down to, after seeing Max at 155, you go, man, he's a big 145er, but maybe 145 is where he belongs, right? And so before Max loses to Dustin Poirier, beats Brian Ortega, right, and absolutely batters him. Ortega coming off that big knockout over Frankie Edgar and looking like one of the most promising guys in the division, right? And a lot of people thought that Brian Ortega was going to win that fight. I can't remember if he was a betting favorite. Something tells me that he was a betting favorite. I feel like I remember watching a Joe Rogan podcast where he was complaining about that, but I could be getting fights mixed up. Anyway, Max deals with him, deals with Frankie. I mean, probably the best featherweight. He's probably the best featherweight of all time. In my opinion, he probably is. I used to say Conor, but then, I mean, so much has happened since then, and Max has proven himself time and time again. And I don't think that anything changes this time around while he's defending his title. I think that you're going to see Volkanovski give him some problems, and that Volkanovski might be able to push him forward at times, get him up against the cage, maybe work for some, maybe even get Max to the ground at some point, right? But I think that this is going to be one of those things where no matter how much danger Max gets into, he'll be able to get out of it. And I also just think that like his striking is on another level when compared to Volkanovski. So, and I also think that like, how we were talking earlier about how Jose Aldo was like maybe not being able to find those openings that he's usually able to find. I don't think Max will care. I think Max will just apply pressure and volume until he breaks, and he'll create the openings himself. I think that might be a little bit of what the difference is between Jose and Max is that, Max kind of like he brute forces his way in there with his volume and like I said, with just how his pace and his pressure and how he puts it on you. And then the openings come because he's just relentless with it, man, and you can't keep up with him. And he's got a little bit of, he's one of the most well-rounded games in the world. And I just think that for Alexander Volkanovski, man, it's a really tough matchup. I just think that, I don't think he's quite – I think he had, like I said, thinking about it now even, going through it, I think he had maybe a little bit of a stylistic matchup advantage when he fought Jose because he had that defensive, striking, and then he also had the and not that he's not offensive, man. He was landing punches and he was doing well in that Jose Aldo fight, implementing leg kicks well. It's not that I'm not saying, but I'm just saying I don't think Max will be so respectful. I think Max is going to hit you no matter what, and at some point you're going to break and he's going to find something, I think Max gets this done in the third or fourth round. I think that you'll see Volkanovski look good and competitive up until there, and then Max will just slowly start to wear him down and beat him, And we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Volkanovski is 20 wins and 1 loss, and his last loss was in 2012 or 13. He's been on I think he's on a 17 fight winning streak right now. So definitely dangerous, definitely a threat, but I think it's one that Max will be able to deal with.